Back now with Andrew Heisel from the Wisconsin Cannabis Association. Andrew, if you would address the argument from people who say that this is marijuana, this is a gateway drug to other harder stuff.
The answer would be it's not a gateway drug to harder stuff. I mean, that's simply put, that research has demonstrated that it does not, that's just not really an argument that holds any merit. Cannabis, if you look at cannabis and you look at alcohol, it's something I like to compare because there's a lot of data on alcohol. There were 35,000 deaths reported by the CDC in 2017, directly attributed to alcohol. That's like poisoning. Not the accidents, not the workplace issues. It was just straight deaths from alcohol. There were no cannabis-related deaths reported in 2017. When you look at the statistics, it's basically a substance that has been misclassified as a Schedule I drug, and it's in terms of its potential for abuse, it is radically less than things like pharmaceutical narcotics like opioids. In fact, cannabis is prescribed in many states instead of opioids because it is not physically addictive and you cannot overdose on it like you can with narcotic opioids.
What about smoking? They tell us don't smoke.
Yeah. Believe me, I'm a strong proponent of preventing youth smoking.
Okay.
I've actually worked in the area. It's called tobacco control, and one of the things that we fought for in the tobacco control movement was to regulate tobacco by the FDA. Because if you can regulate any substance by the FDA, if you can regulate it, you can control who, when, where, and how somebody's purchasing it. You can protect children, and you can prevent them from being marketed to. But in terms of smoking, cannabis can be consumed. It can be eaten. It doesn't have to be smoked. As a result of that, you have an option that you don't have with tobacco. And also, there's a lot of other studies in terms of its effect on the lungs, but I don't really have any expertise to get into that.
I know you're not a doctor. You don't have that sort of expertise.
Right.
When you smoke marijuana, would it affect you at all, your perceptions if you're driving a car, operating machinery?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you worried about that? Is there a concern there?
Absolutely. Yeah. Any adult that chooses to legally exercise their right to consume cannabis in a state where it's legal, if they then choose to make an irresponsible decision like operate heavy machinery or drive, they need to be punished, they need to be stopped, they need to be educated, and they need to be potentially punished for what they're doing. In this state, when people get drunk and then go driving, there are repercussions for that, and there should be the exact same thing for somebody that uses cannabis and they're under the influence. It should not be permitted under any circumstance.
So in other words, if I were to be high on marijuana driving a car and I got stopped,
yeah,
how would law enforcement treat that? How would they know if I had been smoking?
Well, they could test you.
Okay.
And there's also the law would create penalties for improper. There's penalties right now for impaired driving. Those laws and additional laws could be used to prevent people, strongly disincentivize, and also punish people who choose to do that.
How much pushback do you think that you and your organization is getting, mainly from the Republican side of the aisle? How much influence do you think the Tavern League has in all of this?
I don't know, because I'm really just focused on the issue, not so much on the politics. Sometimes people think I'm naive, but I just keep charging ahead, hoping that these arguments will win out in the end. But I would just say that there's in many states where it's been legalized, it hasn't really, those two things really haven't conflicted. I mean, they're both choices people make around consumption of adult substance. As long as you are protecting children and not marketing it to children and not providing it to children, it's like an adult choice. I'm not sure exactly in Wisconsin what their involvement is.
Did you ever think years and years ago that we would ever come to this point where this would actually be a debated issue, where a governor would say, no, we need to legalize this?
No, in fact, I didn't know about this issue until 2018 when I was working as a consultant for the Wisconsin Justice Initiative, educating County Board of Supervisors about cannabis, and it was strictly on the social justice merits of it in terms of how communities of color have been disenfranchised, and also they've suffered more under cannabis prohibition. I learned at those hearings, the one in Brown County, I heard the cancer patient, I heard the senior citizen asking for medicinal uses. And then I started to realize, wow, this issue is actually a lot more common sense and mainstream than I ever realized. And ever since then, I've gotten much more involved and actually started the Wisconsin Cannabis Association.
As we wrap up, to the person out there who is just old school against marijuana, what do you say to that person?
I'd say it's a free country and they have a right to have their opinion. In fact, I wouldn't promote this for anyone. I wouldn't promote anyone to use cannabis if they don't want to. I would simply say we should not have a nanny state in this area, and we should promote choice, responsible choice, regulated choice that allows adults to use cannabis within certain parameters.
Andrew Heisel, thanks so very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate it.
Much appreciated. And if you have a newsmaker in your town who you think we ought to have on this program, let us know about it. Send us an email to tips@wearegreenbay.com, or you can message us on Facebook. And as always, be sure to join us once again Sunday morning at 7:30. Until then, have a great day.